All right. Hey, Craig. How are you?
Hey Douglas, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I
Great to be
appreciate
here.
it. So, we're going to be talking about food today, which is probably my favorite topic, maybe next to music. But I absolutely love food. If you've ever seen the show, you know that I wear it well. And, there's a lot of great food out there. I like most food. Unfortunately, I can't eat really spicy food. I have a kind of a bad reaction to it, which is too bad because I know that some of the spicier foods in the world are some of the best foods. So I have to
Yes.
kind of go with more of a bland diet. But I noticed on here you've got the 30-day heartburn solution. And I was real
Mhm.
curious to hear what that was about. What is the solution aside from taking famotidine or
Right.
Zantac or something like that?
Yeah, that's not a good solution. It's a temporary solution to do that, but you have to stay. Most people have to stay on those things for the long term. So yeah, that was the first book I wrote. God, almost 10 years ago, I got into this whole world of food and nutrition through being a nutritional therapist, and I kind of consulted with people for many years around digestive health issues. And that was like one of the more common issues people would come to me with was heartburn and being on things like Zantac and Prilosec and wanting to get off them. So I wrote that book just from my experience working with people. And the solution is, well, it's hard to explain it quickly, but like basically, if I could summarize it, it's to eat real food, as close to what our grandparents, great grandparents ate as possible. Get off processed food, get off processed, grain products, sugar, that's a big one, even alcohol for a while, and to kind of get on like a paleo like diet, kind of meat, potatoes, no, sorry, meat, vegetables, kind of centric diet, and to kind of lay off the carbohydrates. So that's kind of like the quick answer, even though there's a little bit more to it than that.
Well, the ones that seem to bother me are the real acidic ones, like tomatoes. As much as I love
Okay.
tomato sauce, it tends to burn, particularly. And what's funny is that because I love tomato sauce a lot, I'll eat it at breakfast because on breakfast it gives me the whole day to digest it. For dinner, it's no good because you eat, you lie down, right? So people think I'm nuts when I'm eating, spaghetti and lasagna at breakfast time. But it's really, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. And why are there specific foods for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Because certain cultures they don't do that. They just eat whatever they have.
Yeah, and it's very different, in different cultures. I think you and I both have been spent some time in, Asia,
Right.
and that it's certainly not like that over there, right? They have a lot of soups, right? Soups and like things that we'd have for dinner, they have it for breakfast, and there's not so much of that delineation as there are in like at least in America, right?
Well, where did that come from? I mean, the idea that you have to eat eggs and toast and cereal for breakfast, and you can't have
I
turkey
don't know.
for breakfast. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know. I think every culture is probably different in how these things evolve, right? So I really, that's a good question. I've never really, I don't know.
Okay. Well, you had mentioned Thailand. You've also got a book called The Thai Soup Secret. And as we were talking about before we got on, the one thing that I noticed while I was over there that tended to be a central ingredient in a lot of Thai food was basil. I think they
Thai
seem,
basil, sure. Yeah.
yeah, they
Uh-huh.
put it in everything, it seemed like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of my favorite herbs. Love it. Yep.
Okay, well, what is your Thai soup secret? Or do you want to give it out? Is that a
Funny,
spoiler?
there's six of them, and I can't remember because I haven't looked at my book in a while. I wrote that 5 years ago. But essentially, I would say, let's see, the ones I can remember are, um, yeah, they use like a lot of like healing herbs in their soups, like lemongrass and galangal,
Okay.
kaffir lime leaves. Um, they they all the soups are made pretty much, at least historically, were made with like real bone broth, real broths, which is something I really tried to bring into my New England soup book with seafood. Um, and God, I can't remember. You put me on the spot with that one
Oh,
because I
sorry
wasn't
about
expecting
that.
to talk about that. But Yeah, I mean, essentially real bone broths have a lot of kind of healing kind of properties for digestive health. And so I kind of put a digestive health kind of spin on the soups. So in that book, and I kind of adapted them all for like Western tastes and kind of just the ease of making it in Western kitchens. I didn't like include exotic kind of Thai ingredients or things that you couldn't find in kind of in most supermarkets. So there weren't any like exotic like coconut curries or anything like that. As much as I love them and much as people love them, I kept it more to like broth based things. Like you might know Tom Yum Goong, which is like a typical hot and sour soup,
Right.
or Tom Kha Gai, the coconut chicken soup, and a lot of kind of just like medicinal soups that are part of the culture, and kind of adapted them for kind of Western tastes pretty much. But of course with the Thai, I put a lemongrass, a lot of lemongrass, galangal, which is not that hard to find anymore, and gave people like options to like if you can't find galangal, you can use ginger. Galangal is like a Thai. It's like also called Thai ginger. So yeah, I wrote that book like 5 years ago, and that it stemmed from my own experiences and travels in Thailand. I've been to Thailand 3 times, and one of my favorite countries to visit and travel, and I just love it over there.
The other thing that seemed to be in everything in Thailand, which I never liked, was the fish sauce. That
Yeah, oh, yes.
fermented stuff. Oh God, I just couldn't get past the smell. You know.
Oh god. So that's the thing about fish sauce is that I sometimes I tell people like if I'm cooking something Thai or Southeast Asian, and it's fish sauce, I say, okay, do not smell it. Don't put your nose near this. But it tastes fantastic. Like it doesn't translate to the tongue. It's not that kind of, it's very harsh when you smell it. Like it's almost like, oh my goodness, like, whoa, it does not smell good at all. But the taste is, I mean, I love it. I think it's much more milder and subtle on the tongue than it is on the nose.
Well, yeah, on the nose it smells like something died.
Yes,
That's
it's not
really,
pleasant
it's not at
sometimes.
all.
I
But
like it though. Actually, I've learned I like it. I know it's weird.
well, I guess you hold your nose and open your mouth. Yeah, that's
Some
about it.
people, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. So you've also got your latest book is New England Soups from the Sea. And as
Mhm.
we mentioned before the show, I'm originally from Boston and grew up on clam chowder. And
yeah.
there's wonderful soups in New England. But what are some of the ones that you're talking about in your book? Like, aside from clam chowder, which is the famous one, I know there's
Yeah.
fish chowder, there's all kinds of stuff, lobster bisque.
Yep. Yep. So basically, I think if you ask like your average person, like name a New England soup, which I think people would struggle to name more than like clam chowder, lobster bisque, and maybe one or two others. And if you go to any restaurant, pretty much 99% of restaurants in New England, from Maine all the way down the coast through Connecticut, you're going to see pretty much two seafood soups, clam chowder, lobster bisque, and that's it. So I wanted to I started looking at old recipe books several years ago, and just saw such a diversity, an incredible diversity of soups back in the day, like like around World War II, pre-World War II. And I thought I wanted to kind of bring these soups back a little bit and show people just how many traditional soups there are. So for example, let's talk about the most common soup and the one everyone knows, which is clam chowder. Most people know of creamy, rich New England clam chowder, sometimes they call it a white chowder, and it's nothing wrong with it. It's delicious. I love it. But there's many other regional types of clam chowder around New England. There's probably like 5 or 6. And those are not as well known. So I kind of featured them in the book. Things like Rhode Island clam chowder, and there's a Portuguese clam chowder, and not very well known. You'll never see that on a restaurant menu. There's the Maine style clam chowder, which is similar to New England, but a little brothier. They often use soft shell clams. And then, of course, there's fish chowder. But there's all sorts of different kind of fish you could use beyond, say, cod, which is maybe the most common one. So I created 6 different fish chowder recipes. And then there's shellfish chowder. And you can make a chowder out of almost, anything, any shellfish or fish. So I include 18 chowder recipes in the book to just kind of help broaden people's minds and curiosity about some of these recipes. And I did that for the bisques too. So that, yes, there's lobster bisque, fantastic. Who doesn't love lobster bisque? But you can make a bisque with clams. You can make it with mussels. You can even make it with fish. And then, of course, there's seafood stews. And there's, the sky's the limit with these seafood stews. There's things like, cioppino or, bouillabaisse that I think a lot of people know. But there's some other lesser known ones too. And so I feature New England seafood in all the recipes. I really kind of promote using local New England seafood for a lot of reasons. So I encourage people to really learn. I have some chapters in the beginning just kind of going through the different local species, some of the lesser known species of fish and shellfish, and encourage people to always use those species in the soups. And then I understand that maybe some folks might not be from New England, say, well, so I encourage people to kind of use the fish that's kind of local to you. And the cool thing about fish and shellfish is they're very interchangeable in recipes. So even if you're on the West Coast or Southeast, if you look, and you can use the species of seafood species that are local to you and still kind of make the recipes and adapt them to kind of your local seafood.
You know what I found, going back to Thailand a little bit, Thailand is very tropical and the ocean water is very warm. I didn't find the fish as tasty as the New England cold water fish. Is there something about fish that the meat is better if it's from cold water as opposed to warm water?
That's an interesting point to make, because I think you're right. Like I have that, I never really thought of it, but I think now that I think of it, like I really do love, I lived in Alaska for a brief period, 2 years. And the fish up there was like so phenomenal. I just loved it. And the fish here in New England, I just love, like everything I love. And yes, when I was in Thailand, you're right. It wasn't quite as like,
it just didn't.
It was good. I mean, I like the Thai fish, but you're right. It wasn't quite as like briny. I think there's something about probably the water, the quality of the water here in the Atlantic Ocean in the northern hemisphere that has like certainly a different kind of characteristic and quality to it.
Well, I didn't want to use the word tough because that wasn't the case. It's not like the meat was tougher, but it was more briny.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. It just had a little more substance to it, I think. The Thai fish was more flaky. No,
yes.
The cold water fish was a little more put together. I'm struggling for the right term for this, but the Thai fish just seemed to kind of fall apart more. It was a little more powdery almost, where the New England cod and cold water salmon, I mean, it's like really firm.
Right. I find like the New England fish kind of just more the brinier. Like I think it depends also like how it's cooked, obviously, right? Like I've had some of those barbecues on the beach in Thailand. Oh man, they're just phenomenal. They cook the whole fish. They put it in like some sort of green chili sauce or something.
Oh, green curry.
And like a green curry. Like, not like a curry, but like a close.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh boy, when they cook it up like that, yeah. But I think it depends on the fish,
We've got just a couple minutes left, maybe 2 minutes, and I want to go back to the New England book. So you had mentioned something I was curious about. You said Portuguese clam chowder. Now I know there's a huge population of Portuguese in Fall River, and I've had a couple of friends over the years from there. There was the Portuguese sausage, which permeated everything that they made, just about. Does that go into the chowder or no?
Yes,
it does.
It does.
Okay,
I have quite a few Portuguese recipes in the book, and I think most of them have the linguiça or the chorizo, as I call it, chorizo. Which is like chorizo, but so that nice kind of peppery, spicy sausage, which kind of like infuses the soups with like this beautiful flavor. Yes, that is in the Portuguese clam chowder.
I always thought the linguiça was something like a cross between pepperoni and kielbasa. It seemed to be,
yeah,
kind of, right?
Kind of.
Nice flavor.
It's mild, right? It's
it's
nice,
mild
kind of flavor.
Yeah, hard to find out in Las Vegas. Let me tell you, it's not something that they have out here. You really have to hunt for it. But okay, well, how long has your book been out? The latest one.
It came out in early March of this year, so about 2 months.
Okay, how's it doing? Doing all
great.
right?
Yeah, it's getting it out there, and it's
Okay.
I'm getting a good response from it, and yeah, just trying to get out there as much as I can and talk about it, and spread the word about it.
So, as well as being an author, you're also a blogger, a food blogger?
Yes, I blog at my website, fearlesseating.net.
Fearlesseating.net. Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing blogging?
Oh God, like 11 years now.
Oh, long time.
Started it, I think, in
Yeah.
2011. Yeah, it's a labor of love. It kind of, ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'm really into it. Sometimes it's, not. But I try to get out content regularly.
Do you
Content
blog?
is king, as they say.
Yeah. Do you blog about restaurants? Do you do restaurant reviews, or do you do
Now,
specific, like recipe kind of blogging?
yeah, it's a lot of recipes. Probably like 60, 70% recipes, and then just other topics on sustainability and a little bit on nutrition and kind of whatever. The last 3 years, it's been mostly talking about New England seafood issues around sustainability in New England, but a lot of recipes. I shared a lot of recipes in the book too.
Well, we do have to wind this down, Craig. Thanks so much for coming on. Give out your website again, please.
Yeah, fearlesseating.net.
Okay. And people can find all your books there and information about you
Find
in
all
the
links
blog.
to my books there, and you can sign up for my newsletter there and check out my latest blog posts. Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for coming on. I love talking about food, so this was very enjoyable. Best
Yeah,
of
thanks for
luck.
having me on, Douglas. Appreciate it.
Best of luck with all your books. I hope
All
they
right.
do well.
All right. Thank you.